Hey Alex! Welcome to Intro to Python, as the first slide says. Sorry I'm a little bit late, I had a sad lecture to go through about that. So, how many of you know C++ and Java here before coming? Okay, it's not required, I'm just asking. So today our workshop is going to cover a little bit about what is Python, then using it as a calculator. If you do not get anything what we teach today, you can just use it as a calculator. That shouldn't be a problem. Then we'll actually do Python like that's what we are here to do. So to all the people who know C++ and Java, Python is weird. Like if you're using C++, you are used to putting a semicolon, using arrays, using pointers, and including the IO stream, but Python does not have all those things because the person who made Python just thought that, well, it's kind of obvious, why should I include it every time? Or why should I put a semicolon every time? So the developer just thought, let's leave it alone, and he removed everything. So it kind of feels weird, very weird. But then coming to why is it used then? Well, Python makes sense because Python has like thousands of libraries specifically for artificial intelligence, which you may go on to learn in college as well. There are more for people who want to do statistics. There are people who wish to do some animation if they wish to do for some reason. So that's why Python is widely used. And for the people who are learning Python for the first time, are going to find the syntax to be easier or easy to understand. Well, coming to how was Python actually made is the developer was just looking for a hobby. He didn't have anything to do. His office was closed on Christmas, so he thought, let's just make a programming language out of the break. And of course, if you have questions during the presentation, you can ask Ivan. You can ask Ivan there, Salim over there, and Oliver at the back. And they'll answer your questions happily. So let's start. Okay, so please everybody open an IDE. An IDE is an integrated digital environment, and well, it's easier to teach Python that way. Go to Google and type Google Colab if you can't. Open the first link. And you go to, has everyone reached here? Yes, no, maybe. Click on new Python 3 notebook and a screen like this should appear. Has everyone opened an IDE? Or has everyone opened Google Colab or any other Python software they have? And I'll assume that's yes. No? So everyone who has opened and is seeing this kind of screen, perform the following calculations. and try to figure out how it actually works. You can do a lot of calculations. Python uses the same stuff you do in your classroom, so you can just use it as a calculator if you have no other use for it.
Everyone has it.
Has everyone started and some of you are finished, I guess? So I want to ask, what does the 12 divided by 5 actually do? Did anyone figure it out? What?
It's like 2.
Yeah, it is. Good. And what does the percentage sign do?
It's the remainder.
Yeah, that's correct. Has everyone done the calculations? Is everyone done?
Yes.
Hello. Lazy people, unenergetic, please cheer up. I'm not gonna kill you at the end. You don't have to be so low. Go around and check it out. So let's move on to variables and identifiers. Can you people please put down your phones and listen? Anyways, in programming languages, we have variables and identifiers because it's just kind of easier, and sometimes when you're actually programming, you may not be able to do the code on yourself, and you may need help. So if you just show the raw data to your friend or anybody else, they might not get what it is. So using a variable, which are also known as identifiers because they help to identify information that allows, that gives the code a better readability and anyone can easily understand it. So, like, have a look, like as the snippet of code says, perform a calculation and put it equal to, let's say, answer. So Python, being the smart as it is, it's gonna understand that answer is a variable and give it a value. And when you print it, which means you're asking what the value it has to show, you show 8. So if somebody else was looking at this code, they'd instantly realize that that's what answer is, or that's what 8 is here. And of course, if you have questions, you can definitely ask.
Do we need to define something like answer before we use it?
No, you don't. That's why. Python is weird. It's like somebody made it so simple that it made it painfully difficult to learn for the people who know C++ or Java.
So it's the data type manners. If you first define, just use it as an integer, and then you want to use it as maybe something like double or.
So Python supports this. This is called dynamic typing. So let's say if you gave a value 6 to answer, and later on you gave a value, let's say you gave a letter to answer, then answer will work. And as it's just dynamic typing, it works that way. It changes the data type automatically on the basis of what input has been given to the variable.
So if you try to add maybe a character into a number, an integer, or it works.
No, it does not work. It'll give you an error. But if you want to try, you go ahead and try. Is everyone done? And of course, Python is smart but not as smart, so there are some rules that you need to follow while naming a variable. You cannot use certain symbols because it may contain a special meaning to how Python will process your code. So it's just those brackets, question marks, exclamation marks, and symbol, asterisks, and of course you cannot give space, and generally we use a underscore instead. And you can, and if you, there is no limit to how big you want the variable name to be. You can make it as long as you want, as small as you want. It can be for one letter, it can also be for 100 letters if you wish. Well, let's come to data types as Alex was talking. Data type is, it's difficult to explain to someone who has no idea, so I'm just going to ask. If I ask you, what is the number 3? Can anyone say what is 3? Yeah, that's an integer. Good. So if I told you, or if I asked you, what is the question? Can you answer me? What is the question?
String.
A sentence.
Oh, okay.
So like the English languages has its own types of words or organization of characters. Similarly, Python has the same thing, and they're very bad. They're too complicated, and some of them are not intuitive. But of course, as when you keep on code, like if you code twice or thrice, they become something they on the text. So there's an integer which takes numbers. There's a decimal that Python calls float. It takes all the decimals. Then strings, sentences. There's something called a list. List is kind of important. List is if you wish to group objects in an ordered manner. Let's say if you wanted to take attendance in this hall, then you'll like to write everyone's name in a list, and we'll call it list of names. So lists allow us to actually process every name and use every name in whatever way we want. Well, there are dictionaries, tuples, set, and boolean, but these are some things that they're not very relevant to the people here, or if you're not doing a like really advanced Python, writing 1,000 lines of code, using some 1,000 variables. Otherwise, simple codes generally do not require you to use dictionary, tuples, sets, and boolean. Boolean being true or false. Set is what we study in mathematics, and tuple is just a list that cannot be changed. All of these have a syntax. List requires square brackets. Dictionaries require one thing to be defined with the other. A tuple requires a parenthesis. A set requires its own way. It uses curly brackets. And like I said, commonly integer, string, float, and list are used. And even if you try to crack one of like difficult problems in Python, you'll still manage to do it with these 4. Well, it's time to do. So make a variable. I'd say called test.
Can you zoom me? Make it larger. We can't see clear. Yeah.
So what we're going to do is, you give whatever you want test. You can write a whole sentence. You can give a number. You can give a fraction. And this will tell you what's its data type. So it says float. And imagine if I wrote a sentence. 1 and if I print it, it's going to say it's a string. So every sentence comes in a string, every character will also come in a string, while decimals come under float, and numbers come under int. So if you put a number here, and you print it, it's going to say it's an integer, and if you just put one character in it, so that's a string. Furthermore, if you put anything under a string, it does not matter if it's a number, it's a decimal, or whatever it is, it's going to process it as a string. And this is what's a list. You can put anything you want. Python processes it as a list, and it says it's a list. That's it. Python inherently is very easy, but if you're coming from a different language, it's kind of pain in the ass to figure out. Has everyone done? Like, have you tried doing software test? Yes? Yes, better energy, I like it. So let's move on to the next. So coming to the topic of strings. So I made a little minor detour for strings because strings are very important. Because if you actually use Python, you're going to take an input at some point of time, and strings allow us to process those inputs however we want. String is like, if you wrote a sentence, then Python can maybe find out if it's using an article or not, if some information can be extracted or not. So those things can be done with the help of strings. And of course, there's an example again. So if you want to try, and going to the technical part, string is obviously an ordered sequence. And as I said, string allows you to pick out a particular character just by referencing its position. So how the indexes, like I've labeled inside this square bracket, how indexes actually work in every programming language, or the programming languages I know, is that for some reason it considers 0 to be the first position. It does not actually think that 1 is actually the first position. Python processes 0 to be the first position, and when I put -1, since there's nothing there, it reverses and goes to the end. So -1 prints the last character in the string. That is why. So if you want, you can write a bigger string, test it out with -3, -5, 0, and of course, if you, for example, in this string, if you put, let's say, -45, it will show you an error because there is no 45th character to show. Similarly, if you put a +45, it will show you an error because there is no character to show. So if you print an index that out, if it exceeds the length of the string, it's going to show you an error like this. So if I did again, it shows the same error because there is no character at the -45th position to show. Let's come to conditionals. Well, conditionals in Python are very much derived from the English language. Like, for example, you're saying your friend that if there is chicken, buy chicken, else buy pork. So it's like, if that's there, it's going to do it. If it's not there, it's just going to do the other thing. So it's not that difficult to understand, and Python makes it even easier to implement. So there are some symbols that we use to compare. So we use the double equal to sign, equal to, that's how we read it, because that is telling the Python interpreter, or telling Python to check if one thing is equal to the other. We do not use a single equal to because we have already used the single equal to actually assign a value to a variable. Well, and there are more symbols, like there is the second one, which is greater equal to, which means that the first integer is actually bigger than the other one. It's going to say, yeah, it's greater, and it's going to do what it's supposed to do. And same is for the less equal to and not equal to, where the exclamation mark means not. And if you want to, like I said, try out a snippet of code. So if you want to go a little how Python works, this is one of the operations that's used a lot. So I've put a character here. You can check a number. You can check whatever you want, and it just as like if you read it in English, if x in string. So that makes sense that like it's easy to comprehend, and if somebody who knows C++ and Java knows that doing this kind of thing is kind of a hassle in other languages, but Python allows us to check a character in the whole string without putting in any effort. So if I put, let's say hello. So it's there. So, can anyone tell me why did this work? I did not put any character.
Space.
Yes, very good. Smart class. So in the coder's terms, the thing that we write inside the if and before the else is called the true part, and something you write after the else is called the false part, which is that if the number equal to 5 is true, so it's 5, and when it's false, it's going to print it's not 5. Well, now it's time to do some questions. Just 3 questions. Yeah, I think I'll give you 15 minutes to give it a try. And of course, if you need help, we're here. And there is a piece of information that might interest you guys. The first one to do all the 3 and show us will get an Oreo, the 3 back. So the first one to do 3 will get a 3 back Oreo. It's come to my notice that people are having trouble taking inputs, so let's. Process that to be a character, which is part of a sentence. It's not going to recognize that as a number. So if you want it to be a number, you have to encapsulate input inside the int keyword. So what's that actually doing is that if you are inputting a number,
It's fun. We have no difference.
So it's no difference that is. And another.
was unclaimed. So it's bad. Yeah, only goes to the organizing committee. Every time you fail, an audio goes to the organizing committee. One minute left. Got it.
No way.
Oliver, check his book. Yeah. This brings the lesson. You did it? Guys, Oreo is off the table. Give us an Oreo. Good night. Sorry. That's one. Yeah, so the thing with Python is it's a cheater's language. Like I said to some of you that go ahead and check it on the internet how to do it. But Python also has an inbuilt cheat sheet for you. So if you have, let's say, everyone pay attention to this. Python has an inbuilt cheat sheet for you. So what it does is that if you use the keyword dir, which is a short form from directory, it's gonna print all the functions available for a directory. String belonging to str. So there's an add function, there's a class, this contains. So the dir we just used as well. There's a dot, there's a need, format, G, get attribute, stuff. So the thing what you required for the third question is somewhere at the end. It's called this. Can you see? Is add now. So if you looked up on the internet, you would have found is add now, but it's there if you look in the dir. So if you do dir, you can find a lot of useful functions that you may require. And just a tip, if the function's name is in capitals and there is no underscore in the name, you need to use it by using a dot. Let's say, So, like it says. Anyways, so that's how it works. So if you notice, I've used dir and put string inside those brackets. But when I've used this random, it's actually I'm using a dot. So the functions that have an underscore like this, the dir, you're supposed to put them inside that function. But on the other hand, if there is no underscore like the isRandom function, you don't need to put it in brackets. You can just put a dot and use it. So what that actually means in terms of inclusion is that directory is accessing directly for that function, while the dot function are a specific function for that data type. Meaning, if we use isRandom on an integer, Python will hit you on the head and give you an error. But it kind of works for the string. And dir is a common function for every data type. So you can put integer in, like if you put something that is a number, something has, let's say, a decimal, it'll work. So if you're not able to complete in the given time, please, you can wait later or ask us, or I'll give you my email ID. You can message me all the doubts you have, because university is boring as it is. So let's go to loops. Loops is also one of the most used thing in a lot of programming languages. And Python has two loops, one being the for loop and another being the while loop. And there are some disadvantages and advantages to both. For loop is generally used when you know how many times you're going to run the loop, whereas the while loop being, if you don't know how many times the loop is going to run, you can use a while loop. So how these loops are actually named, they are named in a sense that their actual name will kind of appeal to the code writer, so he or she can understand how it's going to work. So let's say if I said, so this is my friend Kunal sitting in the crowd. So if I said, for Kunal is a boy. So whatever it, and yes, this is one of the things that Python is unique to Python is that you can put an else condition to a loop, right? Like if you said for x in, let's say, a string, but if it's not there, Python will execute the else command instead of executing the loop. I'm not sure if it's unique, but it's definitely new to me and definitely new to programming languages here. So that kind of helps. Well, and like I said, while loop is kind of like chewing your food. You don't know, like if you're chewing a pastry, you may chew more. You're chewing a nut, you may chew less. So it's kind of, you don't know how many times the loop is going to work. So you use a while loop. While for could be used for climbing a ladder. So if you know the 10 pegs to climb, so you know for something 10. Well, now let's go to the syntax, and here's something for you. So for the for loop, the following is the syntax. And everybody give it a try. So a little explanation. What does the range does? That let's say if you have written for x in range, well, x is a variable, and what range does that it sets the minimum and the maximum value for the variable. Let's say if you put 5, it's going to automatically put 0 to x, and then it's going to let it go to 4. Because, like I said, it starts with 0, and and for some reason Python does not allocate the last value, which is 5 in this case. And as usual, you can use loop in a variety of ways. Like you can check a whole list, like I said before. You can check for range. You can check for the length of a string. And there are also a lot of ways that you may stumble upon right now if you try. Like in the first snippet of code, I've printed the string hey in 2 different ways using the same for loop, and it's doing the same thing. And of course, if you have questions and if it bothers to the C++ and Java users, please ask. It's very awkward, weird, butt cracky, stuff. Yeah.
What's the third kind of what? I can see that X is just kind of and then what is second? What's the third round of explaining? Like you said in X in numbers.
Yeah.
For every X in numbers. Like first
Loop, which is the while loop, and give it a try. It's partially the same, it uses the same logics. And yes, in the second snippet I've used the word called break. What break is supposed to do is, it's literally supposed to break your code. So in case of Python, when you write break, it breaks the first loop it encounters. So when I wrote break, somebody who processes Python then behind the scenes went up and found the first loop and broke it. It broke free and it went outside, which is the print done statement.
X less than 5, X equal to X plus 1. I want to use it because of my points.
Like if you don't know
It's a range from 0 to every
Asking for the final time. Does somebody need help? Okay. And this is the last slide, second last slide. So these are some questions for you to attempt. So I'm not saying you're supposed to do them right now, but if you want to do them in Python, do them in Python. If you want to give it a shot in some other language you know, so that it becomes easier, do that. Just to think that these questions are not only just questions, they're also a huge amount of data, so please optimize the code, otherwise the code will run for 2 hours. Or even 12 hours if you are outputting some debug values. And it's break. We are now going to play Kahoot, and if you win at Kahoot, you get a prize. Hello? Can you come?
Just a Python. Probably did like we did. We never like give it a final try.
So is that
One, if you guys like, get some feedback and then we can improve from there. You know, the learning curve is if you get some challenge, then you go for it, you feel excited, and then we can go to the next challenge. Okay, so this is how we develop the learning curve. Okay.
I actually brought the workshop Sunday.
Oh, with it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So you bring the whole group. Okay, very good. Yeah. Very good. It's good. Yeah, thank you for the IT team and also our speaker tonight. Yeah, I just remember to tell you guys how much we want to support you guys. Okay, so we still see there are many NDC here. If you know there's some friends and they want to join us, let us know. We can organize a second event. Okay?
你没有，正好。
没有吗？好。那这就有点太大了。可以啊。哦。
Yeah, name.txt is already. If you want to find names or if you want to find names.txt. May I know who has not entered their nickname yet? Yes, thank you everyone for being participating. Are they enrolled? You want, give it a shot, give a check if everyone's in or does anyone need to go? Ivan, she needs that. One behind her.
Yeah.
Behind her.
Yeah.
Go. Should we start? Is everyone in the game? 3, 2, 1. Let's see. And people who are wondering what happened, that's a variable name called integer, and I can put whatever I want in a. See, yay, I got you. Let's see who's winning. Oh. Okay, let's go. Next question. Again, true or false. So we'll just work in a code like you did with the input. Okay, does anyone have a question? What went wrong? That's just that. Does anyone have a doubt about why they got their question wrong or right? Yeah, it is. See, the thing with that is that if you further use the keyword sum, it won't work. Like if you assign a value 5 to input and then you take input the next time, it will say the int object is not column. So please, it works, but don't do it. So we're going to the next question. Oh wait. Okay. If you multiply 6.6 to 9.9, you get 65.34. So when you put into a decimal, it rounds off to the lower integer, like the flow function or the GIF in maths. So let's use on top. Who are you, Brian? Who are you? Is somebody knows?
Oh, Brian.
You got a win, Brian.
Brian's on fire.
Okay, let's go. So I actually added 2 strings and they get combined. It's not going to be 3. Please don't be like that. So you're 3. And whoever did this, you're not 100% wrong. You thought the correct way, but plus is involved. And I think it's the last question. Yeah, we're going to the last question for the first round. I see a mixed bag. And it's invalid because you can use single quote or double quotes in Python, it does not make a difference. But if you use double quotes you have to end that string with a double quote. So the moment I typed double quote in the code, the rest following it was automatically converted or processed as a string. So this function will not even work, it's just showing the error. So let's see who won. Who won the Oreo? Ooh. Who's Leona? Hi. So, and who's Yili? Well done. And of course,
we can give the award to all.
first hand. Sure. No.
Who's the first? Who's the second?
So it's time for the next Kahoot. This one was on numbers and variables. Other is on data types. And trust me, that one is worse. Because I'm reading. Come on, guys. Why is there no sound? Oliver, do you have any idea why there is no sound? Is everyone ready? The prize is given in Python. But you know what? But you can of course attempt it in any language you want. And if you want the names.txt file, it's in the Google Drive folder to which the link Oliver provided you in the beginning. Yeah, and if you want the prize, except question 2, you can attempt any other question in any other language. Because question 2 executes really fast in Python. So, like if you make any mistake, the first question will take up to an hour to execute. And of course, if you can code fast, then you can do the third one. But if you make it really efficient, you can execute the first program in 4 minutes. But of course, if you know dynamic programming, you can execute the first one in 10 seconds, I guess. So, I'm not saying all of you have to do it right now, but give it a shot, and I know you'll have questions. And if you want, I'll give you my email ID, you can email me your doubts. And for the people who sent their doubts on Instagram, sure, I'll look to them. Yeah. So does anyone have a question or anything you want, like, sure. Oh, and yes, the podium is now open if anyone wants to share their experience or just, roast the speaker. Yeah. Yeah, if you do either of them. Oh yeah, so I'm so if you don't do it, what is it? Optimal, if you don't optimize it, it's like and if you do it, you do it. Is there an answer? No, I'm not asking you. No, first number, the first number. Oh, yeah. I don't want to say anything. I want to give you opinion. No. See what I know. I want you to find the next one position. Hello.